Don't give up. Please, don't give up. This is something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently, and it's something quite new to me, the thought. I've always thought, if I'm working towards something, it doesn't matter if I don't succeed. I can always just give it up and try again later. Because I live the exciting life of a loner, I'm not accountable to anybody. It doesn't matter if I'm not successful at something. But I can always try again when I get a bit older. Maybe in the future things will be okay. Maybe I'll have that spark of inspiration to push through and succeed in the future. But recently I've been having second thoughts on that attitude. And in some way it's been for a lot of, I suppose, quite selfish reasons. Well, it'll sound ridiculous when I let you know. When I first started this channel, I had no real idea where I was going to end up. I can't remember exactly what I said in the first video. I should probably listen to it again. But I find myself in a place now where whenever I log on to my YouTube account, I'm always suggested very similar channels to my own, so kind of life commentary channels. Channels where people talk about their life experiences, their opinions on things that matter to them. Small channels, some big ones, but quite often the YouTube algorithm is weirdly working to give me what I want to see at the moment. I've been watching a lot of small channels recently and really enjoying watching them and listening to what the people have to say. A lot of these channels have fewer than 10 subscribers. Sometimes they even have 0 subscribers. Quite often they'll have, quite a few videos, sometimes quite a lot of videos. But I always like to give them a chance now. In the past I'd never actually consider watching a video from a channel with less than 100,000 subscribers. I'd always have this attitude that, what do they know? How can I listen to what they have to say? They haven't got a clue. But, of course, being on the other side now, I find I appreciate the smaller channels almost a lot more than the larger ones that, in some way, seem to have, through no fault of their own, lost their original message. Or perhaps not necessarily lost their original message. But anyway, that was a massive tangent. The reason why I've been thinking about not giving up recently has been some of these smaller channels that I've actually got quite invested in now have just disappeared, and I don't know. I guess it gets me a bit down. I really hope these people are doing okay, but something must have gotten to them to stop, or at least pause their content creation journey. There was one channel about a guy living in his car in Florida, and he'd upload daily his opinions on things, how his life was going, and all of a sudden he disappeared. It seemed as though he had a great ambition for YouTube to try and make it big, because he was living this horrific nomad life of just having no job and living in his car. But I guess he wasn't getting the views he was hoping for from this. But I was watching, and that's why I think it's a bit selfish of me to think about this now. It's not just small content creators that's got me thinking about this. Well, perhaps it was the trigger. I myself have no intention of quitting uploading videos, even if no one's listening, even if I'm just talking to myself in my room. But I feel like perhaps when you're involved in content creation, providing you have a stable income, you should perhaps see it as a hobby to begin with, something you're doing on the side to learn all these amazing skills that we can all learn. So video editing, speaking, script writing perhaps, videography, learning how to build things in Minecraft like I am at the moment. But as I'm getting older, I am starting to think about all the things I gave up in my life all the things I started and never succeeded at. And I'd like to talk about a few of them here, if that's okay. I wouldn't say I have any big answers or any solutions for not giving up, but perhaps you can divine some wisdom in all the nonsense I speak about sometimes. If you haven't noticed already, this is one of my unscripted videos, so it's a bit all over the place, but there's a general theme. So, examples of things I've given up in my life. I wouldn't say there was anything major necessarily, anything life-changing, but looking back on it, I feel like I would have liked to put more effort into some of these things before giving up. And I suppose the first thing would perhaps be language learning. Learning a language. I've always thought it would be really cool to be able to speak another language, but I've on and off been learning Japanese and Mandarin all throughout my life, and I just keep giving up. From this, and somewhat related to YouTube as well, I suppose the thing is consistency. Now that I think about it, with YouTube, there's not necessarily the goal of being good at YouTube eventually. You learn quite early on that you will always be learning. Every single video you make, you'll be learning something. Every single mistake you make, you'll learn from it. You'll feel, and this is just me guessing at the moment, I don't know necessarily, but you'll feel as though you've never made the perfect video. You can always do better, and that must be somewhat the case with learning a language, or any skill perhaps. You'll never think to yourself, right, I finally learnt this language. What's the next thing? And you'll never think perhaps that you're the best at it. But yeah, other things I've given up in the past have been furthering my career academically. So, when I finished university, I really wanted to do a PhD, so I think they call it going to graduate school in some countries. I was very interested in research, and I had a few interviews in 2017, I think. It must have been then. And I didn't do very well in any of them. I don't think I practiced enough for them. I didn't really understand necessarily what I was applying for. And after a couple of rejections, I just gave up. I was like, well, what's the point now? Maybe in a few years' time I'll be able to have the confidence to apply again. But a few years passed and I thought the same thing. I started getting comfortable. And perhaps that's one of the things that's preventing us from pursuing things that are difficult. It's much easier to be comfortable, I suppose. Like, with this video today, I was almost not going to make it because, well, I had a really rough day at work. It was one of those days where things were just chaos. Towards the end of the day, I was asked to stay late. I really didn't want to because I wanted to come home and record my video. I had to stay, unfortunately, after a long argument with my manager, which somehow is perfectly fine. I think in any other company I would just be fired immediately. But when you work in science, people seem a bit more lenient, or at least willing to accept my nonsense at work. I had to work overtime then. I finished all annoyed, got home, then I realised I'd left some stuff at work, some shopping for things that I was going to have for my dinner. I was just about to give up again there and just sit down, turn on my computer, doom scroll through YouTube and give up for the evening. But I decided in the end to just go back to work, collect my stuff and then come home again and motivate myself to record this video. It does help that I only work 90 seconds away from my house if I cycle, so it wasn't a huge commitment, but having to drag the bicycle out and get things when I'm already in a bad mood, that didn't help at all. But the thing is, I was able to somehow motivate myself. While I didn't have any techniques or anything, any method to motivate myself, like I understand some people like to listen to music or something along those lines, I used the annoyance at everything, at the world in general, to motivate myself to come home and start recording, to press record. One other thing I've been doing recently has been breaking up tasks. So for my videos, I need to record the footage, which I'm not very good at. I need to record the audio, make the thumbnail, the title, description, all that good stuff. And, well, I was doing that all in one sitting, and now breaking up these into more manageable tasks I found helps it a bit. Although, another thing I've also found is once you get started, it's actually pretty easy just to crack on and complete the work. So the hardest part of these videos is no doubt the audio, but once you get speaking, like from my perspective, I've been speaking for like 20 minutes now. I'm sure there's all kinds of garbage in there that I'm going to remove, all the pauses and so on, but I feel a lot more comfortable now just talking about this topic. Circling back to the start then, I really want to ask you, if you're listening this far and you're working on something that seems difficult, something that you think, you can put off, perhaps you'll be able to complete it in the future, even though it's good for you. So perhaps it's just going to the gym. Perhaps it's giving up one of your vices. Perhaps you are one of these small YouTubers who I really enjoy watching. Please don't give up. Just do a small amount to contribute towards your goal. What's the worst that could happen in the end? Nobody watches your videos. Well, you've managed to learn something from it. You have the satisfaction of completing a task. And even if it doesn't go perfectly this time, you'll feel a bit more confident the next time you try something. Thanks for listening to this video though. Sorry it was a bit all over the place. It's one of my classic unscripted videos. But thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.